All right, Michael, draft week is off to an exciting start. It's starting off with a bang. I believe it's been 40 days since Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee's show and said his intention was to play with the New York Jets. Well, he is now a New York Jet. It is official as of today, as of less than a half hour ago. The Jets get Aaron Rodgers, who will wear number 8, despite having Joe Namath's blessing to wear number 12. They receive the 15th overall pick from Aaron Rodgers and a 5th-round pick in the 2023 draft, which is number 170 overall. The Packers received the 13th overall pick. So there's a pick swap, 2 slots. They move up 2 slots in the first round. The 42nd overall pick in the second round of this year's draft. The 207th overall pick in the 6th round of this year's draft. And a conditional 2024 second that becomes a first. There was a sticking point. If Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of plays in 2023, which is not a high threshold. You have to get hurt or get shut down or quit to not make 65% of the snaps. No word if the Jets got that whole 25 compensation if Rodgers retires stuff that I think they dropped a long time ago. Point being is Brian Gutekunst basically went to Joe Douglas and said, and I want David Putney just because I feel like it. We argued, and a lot of people argued about, oh man, who has the leverage here? I told you, it was simple. The Packers had what the Jets not only wanted, but so desperately needed, which is a quarterback, stability at quarterback, and the ability to get in the playoffs for the first time in over a decade, the longest drought in North American major professional team sports. And sure enough, the Jets caved. And I don't say that as a criticism. It's a great trade for the Jets. They had to. They had to do it. Good for them.
Mike, not only is it a great trade for the Jets, it's a great trade for us as football fans, football observers, football commentators. What a way to kick off draft week for us to get what we expected, but still, when you see it materialize, it's still shocking to see Aaron Rodgers, 15 years in Green Bay, going from a Packer to a Jet. It's amazing. And you're right. Mike, Woody Johnson, and we heard from back channels, we heard Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas say, oh, it really changed our perspective when we heard Aaron Rodgers tell Pat McAfee that he was 90% retired. He was 90% retired going into his darkness retreat. Who are we? How could we possibly, in good conscience, trade so many assets for a guy who's 90% retired? Okay, yeah. That sounds good. But before Aaron Rodgers said that to Pat McAfee, Woody Johnson said this to the media at large. You know what he said? We're a quarterback away. He said that after the season. We're a quarterback away. We're a championship roster. We just need a quarterback. And we got to do whatever is necessary to get us a quarterback. So everybody heard that. Everybody knew how desperate Woody Johnson and Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, all of them, and all of New York, all Jets fans, you can't sit there for a dozen years and not even make the playoffs in a dozen years when you got the Giants across the street. Yeah, they don't always make the playoffs, but they got championships.
On the come up.
They've got championships in the last dozen years.
Got the tradition.
And you don't.
Absolutely.
So this is a great move, and I think the Packers got everything they wanted. They move up 2 slots in the draft just because. Okay, 2 slots. They get a first-round pick, essentially, in 2024. And they got Aaron Rodgers. The only bad thing.
What's the only bad thing?
The only bad thing about it, I mean, I guess it's just in this world, this world of capology, and they're going to have to play some games with this. They got $40 million dead money on their cap because Aaron Rodgers is now in New York. So you got to manage that. It's tough to really build the roster, the exact roster that you want. But there are ways around that too.
And they're also a draft and develop team. They've never traditionally been a big free agent spending team anyway.
Right.
They like to keep and retain their own guys. Look, man, I know that reportedly the Jets told Derek Carr when they were talking to Derek Carr that if you come here and you win here, you can go to the Hall of Fame. They ain't got to lie to kick it with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is already going to the Hall of Fame. You telling me you're getting a Hall of Fame quarterback who is not that far removed from, I believe, his 4th MVP? And back-to-back before last year, you're getting somebody who's still one of the upper echelon quarterbacks in the NFL, and you're telling me you're giving up a pick swap, because from their perspective, from the Packers' perspective, whether it's a sweetener or a significant, moving up from 15 to 13, that's not nothing. From a Jets perspective, that's nothing. Okay, so you slide down 2 spots in the first round. You give up a second-round pick when I believe they had multiple second-round picks this year. You give up a 6th-round pick, get back a 5th. And that 24-second becoming a first, if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the snaps, you know what that probably means for the Jets? You had a damn good season, a lot of which we saw in prime time. That is a small price to pay, given how many first-rounders that franchise has blown on a lot of positions, in particular the quarterback position, just 2 years ago, being the most recent example. Right. You know, I mean, so it's like, what is a first-round pick when you are that playoff-starved and that desperate for a quarterback? My only disappointment is that this should have happened a long time ago. This was the longest, most unnecessarily drug-out negotiation ever. Once Aaron Rodgers said, I want to play, and I want to play for the Jets, that trade should have been done the next day. Because it's the only way this was ever going to go, was that the Jets were going to give the Packers exactly what they wanted, even if it meant giving up David Putney.
Well, I'll tell you this. You mentioned primetime. I bet you the NFL schedule maker is going to be looking like Questlove back there on the 1s and 2s doing a little remix. We got the schedule coming out next month, excuse me. And I'm sure that they had the Jets in a certain amount of primetime games without Aaron Rodgers officially. Now, officially with Aaron Rodgers, I think this year you can get up to 6. I think you can get 6 primetime games on a 17-game schedule. And I'm just going to throw it out there. I think the Jets will have 6 primetime games. But there's one thing that's in the back of my mind.
Twos, I need you to. But I just want to. Yeah, they did have 2 twos. They got the other second for Elijah Moore.
Right.
From the Browns.
Number 42.
Yeah.
I think they have 42 and 43, right? Is it 42, 43 or 42, 44? They had that.
Something like that, yeah.
They give up the highest one. But I need you to disabuse me of this. I just got this thought in the back of my mind, and I can't get past it. And it's just because, this is the way, the Packers clearly don't think the way I think, or maybe they do. If I have something, whatever it is, if there's something elite, if there's something great, I am not looking to move on before that thing has exhausted itself. Whatever it is, whether it's an inanimate object.
Okay, so you back on that.
Yeah.
So we should have never got here, is what you're saying.
I'm just thinking though, Mike, Aaron Rodgers didn't have a 300-yard game last year. Aaron Rodgers threw for the fewest amount of yards that he has in a long time. He threw for a bunch of interceptions. And I'm wondering if the Green Bay Packers say, well, we see something that the Jets don't see. They're even more desperate than we are. We like Jordan Love more than they like Zach Wilson. So our alternative to Aaron Rodgers is superior to their alternative for Aaron Rodgers. And so, let's just move him out now because he ain't the same Aaron Rodgers who won those MVPs, and the Jets go find. I don't know. I just think, how do you trade Aaron Rodgers and feel great about it after all those stats? The things you say are
we've
true.
We've been
going to the Hall of Fame.
We've been in the mode of who has the leverage and what are the terms.
Yeah.
We've been in the weeds and inside baseball so much until I don't know if we've ever, you and I at least, have ever truly stepped back and been like, damn, they about to really trade Aaron Rodgers. But I think the truth of the matter, though, is it's like, I don't know if it's whether it's a superior alternative to just an alternative. They had an alternative whose biological clock was ticking like this. And if they didn't get Jordan Love in the lineup sooner rather than later, they were going to have to go back to the drawing board at quarterback. I mean, they're going to exercise, if they haven't already, his 5th-year option, but he hasn't played yet. He's got to play. So they basically made this decision, as we all know, the day that they decided to trade up in the draft to take Jordan Love coming out of Utah State. Once they did that, that bed was made, I beg your pardon, and now they're sleeping in it. But I think they sleep comfortably because, they've gone through 2 quarterbacks in the last, damn near 40 years? And the reason is because they know they've seen this movie before. They've seen this before, where it's like, okay, we got Favre. We're going to draft Rodgers before we actually need him. Everybody else should be taking notes. Minnesota's probably going to end up doing the same thing in this draft. A lot of people like them to take Hendon Hooker in the first round with Kirk Cousins on the way out the door. But it's like, hey, we're taking Rodgers, even though we don't need him, but he fell to, 25 or 24, whatever it was. They take Rodgers, pisses off Favre. Favre keeps him on the bench for 3 years until they had enough of Favre, and it's like, okay, it's your team. And they moved Favre to the Jets before he got to Minnesota. History repeating itself. But I don't think it's just coincidence. I think it's strategy. I think it's brilliant strategy. It's like, yo, man,
you think it's
eventually
brilliant?
there's going to come. I do, because there's going to come a day when Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play. Or maybe the Packers just don't want to play his bullshit games anymore. When it comes to will I play, will I not play? I went to a dark space. I don't know. It's like, eventually you're not going to play. We have to think long-term, and they've always had a long-term vision about this thing. And if you got a guy, now if they didn't have a guy, if they did not have a first-round talent at quarterback who had been groomed and developed in their program under Rodgers, not from Rodgers, but, as a backup, maybe they wouldn't have been in a rush to move on and start all over. But because they have Jordan Love, it absolutely made it easier to move on, even if it's premature from Aaron Rodgers.
See, here's the thing. This is maybe I've just seen this movie. You talk about this movie? You talk about the movie, the Brett Favre movie. That was in 2008. I got a movie
about the Brady
from
movie?
2020.
From
the Brady
the
movie.
Brady movie?
I've seen it,
yeah.
and it really mirrors this one. It really does.
They thought he declined.
Because in 2019, the Patriots were like, "Oh, cool, bro. Go ahead and leave. Go ahead, fine.
And they didn't have
a quarterback
an
option, and they didn't have an option."
Yeah,
but
they didn't.
In 2019, Tom Brady did not look like he was capable of winning another Super Bowl, another MVP, and he did exactly that. Won another Super Bowl MVP, won another regular season MVP. He was great. And Aaron Rodgers last year,
he didn't win regular season, but I got you.
Oh, he didn't win regular season. Okay. Yeah, right. He won a Super Bowl MVP, and he was a runner-up
runner-up.
He was a finalist, whatever it is. Yeah. But he had more than the Patriots saw. So I'm wondering, maybe it's his personality. It's just like the Packers think he's fine. Oh yeah, he can still play. He's good. We know
That's some of it.
We're just tired.
Yeah.
We're just tired of it.
The relationship has run its course.
But they weren't tired. They're
not attracted to him no more.
This time last year they were
in the same bed no more. They ain't sleeping in the same bed.
This time last year they weren't kicking him out of They weren't kicking him out of bed this time last year.
No, they gave him a contract last year. They gave him a whole contract extension.
Gave him a huge contract.
They're going to have to eat some of it. Yeah.
So I wonder. But this is big. This is big news. What I want to hear?
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, real quick, then I'll kick it to you. I want to hear, now that Aaron Rodgers, it's not just Pat McAfee, this audience, now he's got the New York media. Come down, sit down.
That's going to be fun.
Uncle Aaron, let Uncle Aaron tell you a story. New York media, okay, we got the Jersey guys over here, I'm representing the tri-state. Jersey? Okay, I got you. Connecticut, I got you. New York, okay, all right, we got it. And so he's going to like give them different versions and give them little morsels. But I wonder if he will say consistently, hey, I didn't want this. I'm glad I'm here, but I told Green Bay I wanted to come back. They just pushed me out.
No,
and I think he might create that though. He might create it.
I mean, in his mind, he might tell himself that to just kind of give him a chip on his shoulder. Maybe he says it in his biography, but you don't want the Jets feeling like the rebound chick. You don't want to be like, well, I'm just settling for y'all. This ain't where I really want to be. I didn't really want to be in the Big Apple. I didn't really want to be in a place where I'm wanted. No, I think maybe he could say, hey, initially I wanted to come back, but the more I thought about it, because I mean, look, for Rodgers, okay, we talked about it from the Packers' perspective. We talked about it from the Jets' perspective. For Rodgers, this is great for him, because the Packers probably weren't contending even with him. They were going to be relevant. They were going to be competitive. But I mean, whose roster outside of quarterback would you rather have right now, the Jets or the Packers? I'd probably rather have the Jets.
Yeah, definitely. Right.
Now it's a tougher conference on paper, but I mean, I think for Rodgers, it should be re-energized. We talked about it the other day. Like, your old relationship is flamed out. Now you got somebody that think you fine, somebody that laughs at your bad jokes, somebody that doesn't mind your idiosyncrasies. This is great for him. So I would be shocked if he kind of played it like, I wanted to go back, but I got pushed out No, this is like, hey, I took control of the situation, and I looked at the landscape and saw an opportunity here to bring this fan base to the Super Bowl. I think he's going to play it right. I think he'll play it well.
This is huge.
The honeymoon period in New York should last, I don't know, a couple months. Couple months.
First month of the season. First month of the season.
Couple months. It's going to be fun.
We'll see.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. I'll tell you what, it's going to be weird seeing him wearing number 8, though. Number 8.
It's going to be weird seeing him wear number 8. It's going to be weird seeing him in another shade of green. Crazy how him and Bert Favre, their relationships are so their careers have been so parallel. Just one word of advice, just be careful in the text messages.
Yeah,
sorry,
that's right.
Listen,
no, stay focused. No, that's right. Stay focused. Okay. Stay focused.
Yeah.
And listen, you keep your mind on the field, and the only team employees you talk to are the guys that are in the locker room with you.
That's it.
Okay?
That's it.
Stay focused.
All right. It's over. Now we can focus on the draft.
Now you're the highest paid player in the league. I mean, how satisfying is that for you?
Yeah, I think money is nice. Championships are better.
Michael Smith, that is Jalen Hurts. First press conference, big deal. In Philadelphia, the entire organization shows up. Nicole Lynn, his agent, shows up. Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, Nick Sirianni. They're asked, Jalen Hurts is asked about his new contract, $51 million a year, highest paid player in football right now. And he says, money is nice, championships are better. I think all the things he said, Mike, all the things he said, I agree with, except for that one. I would have used money is nice and so are championships. I wouldn't say championships are better, but everything else.
Right. How much money we talking? You know what I'm
saying? Exactly. Right. No, I'm not going to co-sign that with your whole character. Mike, he said he's on a constant quest. He's on a constant quest to be a better player, a better man, a better human being, a better leader. Yes.
It doesn't get much better than Jalen Hurts. I mean,
that's right.
He just out here making it hard for cats. Like, you ever meet that dude? And honestly, Michael, you've been that dude from time to time. Meet that dude, be like, oh, yeah,
very
man,
rare.
I took my wife on a surprise vacation. Or, yeah, man, I'm just out here cooking breakfast in bed for my wife. Or I'm just something. Or you'll be around him and he say something. You know, you be at dinner with him and he's feeding his wife or some shit. And you're like, God, like, why you gotta make it? Why you making it hard for the rest of us? You know, here comes Jalen Hurts talking about looking all smooth and whatnot, Mr. Essence Magazine, right? Mr. Letter to Black Women, right? Already doing everything right. Talking about, look at his lips like LL, you know.
Yeah.
Money's nice, but championships are better. It's like, oh my God, how can you be more perfect?
There we go.
Can he be more perfect? I mean, he just, but again, I will keep saying I told you so. I will keep saying I told you so. He is so perfect for Philadelphia. As if they didn't already adore him. I mean, what's not to love? Knowing that, and they say, I'll pivot by saying this, and you know we're fond of repeating this, because NFL types have said this for years about free agents, about people who get extensions, about rookies prior to NIL, about rookies coming in and seeing money for the first time, that money doesn't change you, it makes you more of who you already are. And that is a very encouraging proposition if you are a Philadelphia Eagles and a Jalen Hurts fan, that the money will only make Jalen Hurts more of who he already is. But this only makes me more excited, Michael, for this week. You know, this is Christmas week for me. This is my birthday week. This is my favorite week of the year, the NFL draft, right? Jalen Hurts, 3 years ago today, was the 53rd overall pick in the 2020 draft. The 5th quarterback taken, again, curiously and controversially, by a team that thought it had its franchise quarterback in place. And this is really what I love about this week, because this is where championships or championship contenders are built this week. This is where it starts, okay? And not only does no one seem to know what's going to happen this coming Thursday night, nobody knows what's going to happen, see Jalen Hurts, over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. As a matter of fact, nobody knows what's going to happen next year. Here's an awesome video that the NFL put out that got me even more hyped. Lets me further know that I'm right about the draft being the best sporting event, not just for the NFL, across the board. Nothing beats the draft. Here's why.
Purdy has no elite traits. Doesn't have a starter skill set.
Brock Purdy is going to the title game.
Outside of his NFL frame, his traits are pretty average.
Touchdown, lasting in Isaiah Pacheco.
Average backup or special teamer.
He may never be a home run threat for a team.
Far from great, way below average.
Lacks fluidity.
Lacks top end speed.
Pro backup.
Lacks explosiveness.
Is underdeveloped.
May lack the speed and durability.
It doesn't matter when you're drafted. You can either prove them right, or you can prove them wrong. Every pick
Counts.
Ooh, yes, sir. So the intrigue, the mystery, Michael, it begins at 2. Bryce Young seems like more or less a lock to go at number 1.
I'm not sure.
Gone are the days.
I'm not sure about that. But go ahead. I'm
I'm
still
not
not
gonna
even
go
sure.
ahead. No, I'm not going to go ahead.
I don't believe any of it. And look, he's worthy of being the number 1 pick. Bryce Young, I'm a big fan of his. You know who I really like? My number 1 quarterback. He's all over the place. Some people say 1, 2. Some people say he slides to 7, 8, 9. Who knows? And C.J. Stroud. But I don't believe that the Carolina Panthers, with the number 1 pick, have leaked to so many people who they're going to draft at number 1 when they don't necessarily have to. I think there may be reasons that's coming out. They could just be telling the truth. Hey, we love Bryce Young so much, nobody in our organization can keep a secret. He's our number 1 guy. Or they may have designs on throwing people off. Maybe they want to trade. I don't know if they want to trade back.
It's not like
they want to trade with Houston.
It's not like somebody could.
I don't know.
But it's not like somebody could leapfrog them. And if they wanted to put out a word that they like Bryce Young, to me, the leverage play. The leverage play is we're open to trading. We're open to all the quarterbacks. Anybody, we like them all. So that way, if somebody does come up, you're comfortable with whoever you end up with. But allowing it to be known that Bryce Young is your guy, I don't know. I get the conspiracy theories. It's that time of year. But to what end?
It's weird.
It's like, because is that going to entice somebody to say, well, what I was going to say is gone are the days when people will be negotiating contracts with the number 1 overall pick right now. You know, once upon a time, they would enter the contract negotiations so to make sure they could actually sign the number 1 pick before there was a rookie wage scale and everybody was slotted. So that part of the mystery is gone, but I believe it. I mean, there are enough people in that organization with enough friends in the media or enough people around the league to let it be known that Bryce is their guy, and why not? He's got everything other than height, and then height doesn't seem to have held him back throughout his entire playing career at every level. I know this is a different level, but again, they all come in through the same front door for the most part, unless you're bagging groceries and you turn out to be Kurt Warner. But, so, okay, it feels like, I get you're not sure, and that's fair, especially after 2 years ago. You know, it's not that long ago when it was with Trey Lance and Mac Jones, and 49ers had us all fooled thinking, even though we knew it should have been Trey Lance, or maybe not, but we knew that it was going to be Trey Lance because we fell in love with him. Everybody was saying Mac Jones, the rest is history. But what I was going to say is the mystery seems to start at the 2nd pick. And not just is it C.J. Stroud or Will Levis for the Houston Texans, it's do they take a quarterback at all? And I would say, Michael, my biggest storyline for this week, and it's actually, if I may say so, I like my own storyline because it's a division that's oftentimes an afterthought. You know, when you look at the landscape of the league, it's probably, with all due respect, the least interesting division in pro football, and that's the AFC South. But the top of the draft is very much dominated by the AFC South. Houston at 2, Indy at 4, and you have the Titans, I beg your pardon, at 11, and then Houston again at 12. The Titans could trade up from 11. The Colts may need to slide up a pick or so, or maybe they just see whoever lands in their lap.
Texans got 2 top 12 picks.
The Texans with 2 top 12, and what do they do with it? And what I hope that the Texans don't do, because there's a lot of smoke around, and I don't know if it's a smoke screen, maybe there's fire, but there's a lot of smoke around them going defense and going Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, because you got DeMeco Ryans looking for his next Nick Bosa, to which I would say, don't get cute. Houston, you have a problem. Don't create a problem.
Right.
Don't solve that problem, because what they could end up being, and no disrespect to Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson, I love what I've seen from Will Anderson. I love the scouting reports on Tyree Wilson. You could end up being the team that DeMeco Ryans just left, which, but for the quarterback position, would have a championship by now. Okay? Whether it's injury or whether it's performance or whatever. Or don't get so cute like Cleveland used to do. Because once upon a time, Cleveland was so busy trying to stockpile picks and take great players, and they couldn't decide which quarter. They passed on a list of great quarterbacks, including, ironically, Deshaun Watson, who is now in Cleveland by way of Houston. Point being, it's like, you got C.J. Stroud there, and I don't see Levis over Stroud, but if they do, okay, I guess. But you got Will Levis there. Hell, you got Anthony Richardson there. Don't fool around in a division where everybody is trying to get what Jacksonville has, which is Trevor Lawrence. Right. Don't fool around and let Indianapolis address its quarterback problem. Don't fool around and let Tennessee jump up and get its heir apparent to Ryan Tannehill, while you sitting there saying, oh no, we don't love these guys, we're just gonna take the best defensive player. Yeah, that's great. And maybe you get Levis at 12, or maybe you get Hooker at 12. I like getting Hooker, but it's like, I just don't want to see Houston get too cute while everybody gets down to the business of addressing the position that when you're up there, hell, Seattle's considering it. Detroit's considering it. When you're up there for one reason and one reason only 9 out of 10 times. That's because you don't have a quarterback. That's why you're up there to begin with. Most of the teams that are up there, you rarely find a team that's got their quarterback situation settled. Like a Jacksonville last year, aberration. You know, most of the time, you're up there because you ain't got a QB. So go get one, okay? When you have that opportunity. That's why Arizona's sitting so pretty. At least they think. They think they got a QB, or at least they got one that they're paying a shit ton of money to. So they're not trying to go and replace him right now. But it's like, if you up there, address that spot, Michael. I'm in franchise mode right now. I love Houston that. And the AFC South in general is my biggest storyline, at least on this Monday. Why were you looking at me like I was crazy just now, though? What'd I say?
Oh, no, I was just funny when you talk about, if not for the quarterback spot. It must be a Bay Area thing. We talk about this later. And now it's making sense. Don't let that Bay Area mentality infect you.
Y'all told me Jimmy Garoppolo was holding him back. That's what you told me. That's what you told me. And then Trey Lance was the second coming.
I didn't know,
everybody got hurt.
Mike, I didn't know it was an area known for such excuse making and such revisionist history. If this had happened, we had done that, y'all must know that we came up with that first.
They had Josh Johnson and 32 different teams he's played for. I mean, I'm sorry. They could, that could kind of help
I'm just going to say this.
Eagles get to the Super Bowl. Just saying.
Let me just say this real fast. I'm going to say it real fast. Going back to that video, that hype video from the NFL, that thing couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, that thing is, I'm saying, I said that wrong. That thing couldn't be more true.
Oh, okay.
That thing couldn't be more true. And I want everybody at this time, and I know there are a lot of high school students trying to get into college, and they're getting some bad news. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. You didn't get into your first choice, your second choice. There's so many examples, and they could have done more of that from the Max Crosbys and Aaron Jones and even Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant. There's so many examples of people, and I'll tell you about it one day this week, because I've been in like 3 or 4 draft rooms, thank God. Had the privilege of being there, and I've heard them identify people who weren't supposed to be great. They turned out to be great. I've heard them say this guy is going to be amazing, and it was the opposite. So look, you out there, take that to heart. This is a subjective exercise. Be inspired.
Yes,
keep doing your thing.
There is no right or wrong. There's only opinion. So we talked about the Panthers at number 1, and you talked about you not believing the Panthers at number 1 and that they know what they're going to do, or at least they let it be known that they know what they're going to do. Here's Scott Fitterer and Chris Ballard speaking to just that point.
We felt strongly about a group of guys up there, and we knew this is something we wanted to do. We wanted to be aggressive and go up and do this. I think through this process, we made the right decision. I feel really good about going from 9 to 1. I'd hate to be at 9 right now trying to figure this out. So I know we made the right decision to go up there. We're going through the right process of being thorough, checking every box that we can, and the next step is going to be execution on draft day and giving these guys the resources they need beyond that to be successful.
As you sit here, do you have a pretty good idea how 1, 2, 3 go or not?
No idea. Really? No, and I don't think anybody does. Now, everybody thinks they do. I mean, of course, everybody thinks they do, and everybody has an inside source that's giving them information of what's going to be done. But I think, as you all know, just look at the mock drafts and tell me how accurate they are after the draft. Nobody knows. Nobody's giving out information.
How much lying do you think goes on right now?
Oh, everybody's lying. I might be the most honest, unfortunately. But everybody's lying.
Do you guys lie?
I think you know Melly well enough. Like, usually if you answer a question, I'll either dance around it or give you an answer. Today, I'm a dancer.
Chris Ballard with the Barry Bonds meets Jim Mora. You think
That's
you know,
fantastic.
but you just don't know. Okay.
Today I'm a dancer. What a quote.
Yeah. You know who knows what he's talking about is our guy Connor Rogers. Both he and our next guest, Eric Froton. Connor Rogers and Eric Froton from NBC Sports. Here's Connor's mock draft, top 10. Michael, he's got the Texans taking my advice and not getting cute and going with your guy, C.J. Stroud, over the betting favorite, Will Levis, and he's got the Colts, quote-unquote, settling for Anthony Richardson, Chris Ballard's Colts. As I mentioned, Connor Rogers, Eric Froton, good to see you guys, man. Let's 4-box this thing on this Draft Monday. Happy draft week, fellas. Connor, starting with you. I've seen a lot of, I mentioned that Will Levis is now the betting favorite at 2. I think he may also be the betting favorite at 4, so make of that what you will. But betting favorite at 2. And I'm seeing a lot of smoke around defensive player, Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson at 2nd. A lot of mock drafts have him going 2nd to the Texans. On behalf of my man Michael Holley, the Ohio State Buckeye that he is, what's up with C.J. Stroud, man? Is it this S2 thing? Why is C.J. Stroud all of a sudden taking such flack in draft circles? Or is it just being exaggerated?
I feel like it's a bit of hyperbole, and I'm not as confident as when I wrote that mock draft a week or 2 ago that Stroud is going to go number 2, but I'm also not believing that Stroud's not going to go in the top 5 picks of this draft. So I think we fall somewhere in the middle. The thing I've heard the most consistently over the last 10 days is that D'Amico Ryans and the Texans are very comfortable just taking the best player on the board, and that would probably be Tyree Wilson or maybe Will Anderson, but to get pass rush started. But that doesn't mean C.J. Stroud falls off this planet, right? We know Arizona wants to trade the 3rd overall pick. That could be a team coming in to get him when they once upon a time thought they had no shot at him. It could ultimately be the Colts, despite how much buzz we've heard about Will Levis in the last 2 weeks of the Colts. And honestly, we've heard so much about Will Levis at 4 that it kind of makes you skeptical it'll happen. I've told you guys before, if you're going to take the swing on traits, why wouldn't you take the 20-year-old with better traits than Anthony Richardson, who ironically we've heard no buzz about over the last 2 weeks in the top 4. I find that to be a really big coincidence right now. So the quarterback carousel is the giant mystery here. I wouldn't be shocked if the Texans stay away from it, which is not a great decision. I agree with you guys, but The Texans haven't made a lot of good decisions over the last couple of years, so it's not really shocking.
Fair enough.
But I don't think the quarterbacks are going to slide out of the top 7.
Eric, let me follow up with you real quick, man, because it's like, I get best player on the board. I get it. I do. But I was always taught that if it's close, the best player on the board, maybe there's a better defensive, unless that guy's Lawrence Taylor. But if there's a slightly better defensive player than the quarterback prospect, even if it's close, you take the quarterback at the more of a priority position. Would the Texans be making a gigantic mistake, given what you know, and I know you followed Stroud since high school, given what you know about Stroud specifically, or even for that matter, Richardson or Levis, would it be a gigantic mistake by the Texans to pass on QB at 2, or do they take one of these edge rushers and maybe there's a guy at 12, or they move up from 12? Are we focused too much on the number 2 pick?
Sure. For my own personal feelings, if I'm running the Texans here, the most important thing is just simply to get as much value as you can for the selection. And if they have decided that a defensive end and a defensive player is the direction they want to go, well, why wouldn't you try to move down as little as possible, acquire more draft capital? You can't have enough. We've seen that by how, Howie Roseman has done a great job with Philadelphia and just amassing assets. So if they're going to go with the Tyree Wilson or the Will Anderson, that direction, why wouldn't you, see what, maybe you move down to 5, maybe move down to 6, where you're still going to get one of the two. Because right now, Tyree Wilson is plus 230 to be that number 2 pick. Will Anderson is plus 350. So they've actually switched positions. It was the other way around last week. But now we have Will Levis at minus 135 and Stroud at plus 350. So we've seen this market change drastically just in the past few days, as Connor sort of alluded to. I think, you got to get the most out of it. If you want the QB, good, it's easy. You just sit there and stick and you take one. But if you're not going to go that direction, get capital and get all you can get.
I want to point out, fellas, I don't know if you guys realize this. C.J. Stroud, 2 years at Ohio State, 85 touchdown passes, 12 picks. 85 and 12. So if the S2 numbers had been better, maybe it would have been 91 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. Maybe it would have processed a little bit, but maybe it's 92 touchdown passes, 5 interceptions if he had better S2 numbers. I don't know how a guy could be much better than that. Maybe they wouldn't have won the Georgia game. He would have given him like 5 or 6 more yards, and the kicker wouldn't have shanked it. All right.
Right. I know he passed that test.
Yeah, right. But this is what I want to know from you both. Eric and Connor, tell me this. Favorite player in the draft and why? Your favorite guy, you're watching him. Why is he your favorite? I guess, Eric, you can go first, then Connor.
Okay, I guess we're going favorites. As Connor knows, at the draft, I have a big crush on Marvin Mims, wide receiver for Oklahoma. He was the all-time leading high school receiver in the history of the United States in a single season basis. And I just think he was drastically undervalued coming into the process. People thought he was going to be in the 4.5, 4.55 range. He comes out at the combine and blows everyone away with a 4.38. Nobody expected that. And it's interesting because a lot of receivers we expected to run real fast and be in those 4.3s, they weren't there. They were in the 4.4 to 4.5s if you're talking about Quentin Johnson. We've seen his drop associated with that. So I am a huge Marvin Mims guy. I think he's going to be a great value in round 2 for whatever team takes him. And he's not just a slot only. I think he can stretch the field vertically on the outside too.
Yeah, Froton, I love that pick. I think Mims has been really underappreciated when you look catching 20 touchdowns over the last 3 years, being that true junior. I think there's a lot of value with him in the wide receiver class on day 2. I'll go with a little bit more of a chalky pick, although I don't know if he goes into round 1 because he is an outlier, and that's what you find yourself rooting for when you're betting on an outlier. That's Calijah Kancey, the defensive tackle from Pitt. The bottom line is there are not a lot of NFL defensive coordinators that'll use a top 40 selection on a defensive tackle that's 281 pounds. That's not even 6 feet 1 inch tall. So when you look at Kancey, what makes him special? He's a great athlete, an elite athlete. He's got speed, explosiveness. He could rush inside, he could rush outside. And just because he's not a guy that'll two-gap and constantly take on double teams against the run, he can make the explosive plays in the backfield by shooting those gaps. So if you have an attacking front four that deploys a couple guys that are already big and contain and stalemate space and let him run around and make plays, Cancey's going to be a superstar, and somebody's going to regret passing on him in the top 10 to 15 picks, I think.
Speaking of superstars, I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind that Bijan Robinson's going to be a superstar at the next level. Now, Eric, I've had quite a few conversations with you in particular at the Combine about my newfound dynasty addiction. I'm not saying that this is a dynasty-motivated question, but dynasty's in the back of my mind when I ask this question because I'm confused. This is another conventional wisdom thing that I'm hung up on. So we know running back's been devalued. If you're the Atlanta Falcons and you get Tyler Algier running for 1,000 yards at 5 yards a carry as a rookie, and is, I think, 22 years old. I may or may not have acquired Tyler Algier this offseason. Why am I seeing, Eric, so much buzz about them taking Bijan Robinson? Like, I get he's Saquon Barkley 2.0, but you got a running back, and you're Arthur Smith, and this is what you do is you run. It's like, why? I mean, is Bijan Robinson that cold-blooded? Where if you got a young running back, you still taking Bijan Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're going with this, certainly. They're plus 200. They're the favorites to take Bijan Robinson down at number 8. I mean, you know, the conventional wisdom of taking running backs early has certainly, in other words, don't do it, is prevailing wisdom. But gosh, you look at the odds. Right now, Atlanta is minus 135 to go defensive line, plus 550 to go QB, plus 200 to go running back here. I just think at such a premium position, where they need a lot of things. You've got Tyler Algier, who is I would say a blue-collar, tough, grinding it out between the tackles type, where you have that skill set of somebody who can get the tough yardage. Maybe, I would prefer to see him go and wait till the second or third round. You get there's so many good smaller backs, maybe an A-chain to complement Algier, 190 pounds, but just an Olympic track athlete. You have Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, who is as electric a sub 200 pounder as you're going to find. So I think that you have options with a smaller running back class to be able to get value down the board where you don't have to expend draft capital, top 10 draft capital, to address a position that is not a need right now.
Connor, or is Bijan just that dude?
He is that dude, but the Falcons are a tough sell for me just because they've already gone down this road enough where you're telling me you're going to invest a top 5 pick at tight end, then a top 10 pick at wide receiver, and then a top 10 pick at running back, but you're going to go into camp with Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke under center. That just feels like a process that doesn't make a lot of sense for a division.
Well, you put it that way.
You
put it that way, Connor.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of
exactly.
sense.
So, and here's the thing I've heard. I've heard that after all the money they just spent on defense and free agency, Arthur Smith is legitimately like, well, that's where we put all of our chips. Now on the draft, I could potentially just take the best skill guy here. So I find it interesting for Atlanta. My gut still says a bigger edge player. Maybe that's where Lucas Van Ness can go. There's some value there, but nothing would shock me when it comes to running backs and Arthur Smith.
I want you guys, Connor and Eric, I both want you to be a part of somebody's promotion in 5 years where they go and say, Connor Rogers said I would never make it. They just said, they didn't think, they thought I was going to be a bust.
And documentary.
Exactly. And they showed a clip. They showed a clip right there. So who is because I tell you, our guy Chris Sims, Will Anderson, if y'all see each other, it might be a misunderstanding. Because Chris Sims has gone in on Will Anderson like he's just like a guy. Like he's just a guy. So I'm wondering, for both of you, Eric and Connor, who is somebody that we've talked about a lot, and you look at it and you say, I really don't get it, why there's so much hype around this guy.
I'll go. I'll start, I guess. Quentin Johnson, I'll stick with the wide receivers. At the Combine where myself, Michael, Connor all got to hang out and chat, Quentin Johnson was the favorite to go as the number 1 wide receiver as of the Combine. That obviously changed drastically. And the reason why is he had great jumps and everything. But you look at the tape and, I think people kind of came around on the fact that he's a big receiver, but he's not Drake London kind of a big receiver. He's just a little under 6'3". He's that 6'2" and change, 208. But he wasn't being used the way that we saw Drake London at USC. He's getting a quick hitch. It's 3rd down and 7, and he's manned up with a cornerback, and that 190-pound cornerback is going to get his face shoved into the grass, and Drake London is going to go right past him. The physicality that you see of that is what you want from a big receiver. When you look at Quentin Johnson, even the stuff downfield where he's making plays, he's allowing the ball to come to him as opposed to attacking it at its highest point. You see that in terms of like catching the ball way outside his frame, it's not really what he does. He's had some explosive plays where he'll catch it and he will maintain the separation that he's had. You saw that certainly against Michigan in the CFP championship. But I just don't think that he is this next level big wideout. I think Cedric Tillman for Tennessee is right there, if not maybe better. I have them very closely aligned with each other. I just don't think he's that much better than guys like, as we discussed, Tillman and the other big receivers in this class. I think he's a lot more closer to the field as opposed to being elite.
And I'll stick with pass catcher here, but look at the tight end class. When you look at Luke Musgrave, he's somebody that has appeared in the first round of mock drafts. He's probably going to be a top 50 pick. I have him as the 80th best player in this draft. And not everything is based on college production, but you look at somebody that missed most of this year due to injury. His best year in college, he had 22 catches for 304 yards. He caught 2 touchdowns in college. He can't block on the line of scrimmage, and that was out west. It gets a lot tougher in the NFL, no matter what division or conference you're in. So essentially, he's a big guy that can run fast up the seam, and that has nice value maybe as a tight end 2 or 3 on a roster, but you're going to use the top 50 pick on that player and say, this isn't just our starting tight end of the future. This is one of the pass catchers our offense is going to run through. There's too many things going against him right now, whether it is not trusting him in line, not being healthy, not being productive. I'm out on that in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, especially with the kind of class we're looking at for tight ends. Sam Laporta had an incredible combine, has ball production all over his tape. There's nothing you can say that you can say, oh, he isn't going to be able to handle the transition to catching passes. You have Zach Kuntz, who tested out as one of the freakiest tight ends in the history of mankind. You're going to be able to get those guys in the 2nd, 3rd round. I just think I'm right there with Connor.
Hey, last thing, I just want to kind of keep with this theme about, addressing the quarterback spot when you have an opportunity. I know Seattle is a stranger to the top 5 for the most part over the last, decade plus. Detroit's got this bonus top 6 pick by courtesy of the Rams collapse. Before we let you go, I'd ask both of you, Connor and then Eric, do you anticipate, should Houston go defense and not trade out like you were advising, Eric, and get the most value for it? Should the Cardinals not be able to get somebody to come up and give them more picks to build what may be the worst roster in the NFL? Do you anticipate QBs 3 and 4 ended up in either Detroit, Seattle and or Detroit, Connor?
If it's going to be one, it'll be Seattle. And there's a lot of things that have kind of walked us to this, right? The structure of the Geno deal, it's really a 1-year deal that has, the fake 3 years if they want it to be. They're too good to be picking in this range again. So it's now or never. It's either Geno's the future for the next 3 years or whatever it is, or get a guy now that you could develop behind him. And with Geno's attitude, that won't be a problem at all. Geno doesn't care. He'll thrive through that. He's been through enough. So I think it would be Seattle. Detroit, I've heard, is locked in on getting a game-changing defensive player. They love Jared Goff. They believe in Jared Goff. The numbers in Ben Johnson's offense for Goff with the talent around him doesn't lie. So Detroit's fixated on Will Anderson or Devin Witherspoon. They'd probably have to go up for Will, but they could probably get Witherspoon at 6, and I think they would take him. But Seattle's the big wild card there. I think it's either Jalen Carter or a quarterback with all of the traits in the world. So they will swing for the fences at 5.
Eric, you expect this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's right on the money.
Quarterback slips there. Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Connor again on this. We are simpatico, and for the reasons that he kind of discussed. You know, we're not going to see either of those teams up here again at these picks with the kind of talent they have on their overall rosters. So it's sort of a now or never scenario for both of these, you know, organizations and franchises. I think it does make a lot of sense for Seattle to take a QB. Will they move up to get one? Is really the question. Do they have a favorite that they're looking at and saying, all right, because that's where it really folds in on that 2 pick or the 3, where if their preference is C.J. Stroud, which we know it's Michael Holley's, then, you know, do they move up 2 spots, which serves both masters for Arizona, needs talent, moves down 2 spots, probably going to get either Anderson or Carter if they want them there. And then allows Seattle to move up 2 spots, get what they need, and not give up too much capital. I think that's a win-win.
Boy, Arizona had better not even take a phone call from John Schneider. But I will say that Anthony Richardson, though, great. I love that fit in Seattle. Love that for him because he can sit for 2 years, if necessary, and be mentored by Geno Smith. Eric Froton, Connor Rogers, thank you both. Connor representing his 3-1 Knicks right now. Appreciate you both.
I see you.
Have a great week, fellas.
It.
Have a great week. Thanks for the insight.
Thank you, boys.
Thanks, guys.
I've been dealing with this 2 years now. It is what it is. The fans could talk whatever they want to. It doesn't matter to me.
When you say you've been dealing with this for the past few years, what is this? What do you mean by that?
The media making me a villain. The fans making me a villain, and then that just creates a whole different persona on me. So now you think I intended to hit LeBron James in the nuts. I'm playing basketball, a basketball player.
Marcus Thompson from The Athletic. I feel like Cuddy from Dead Presidents when it comes to Dillon Brooks. I tried to be a friend. You know what I'm saying? See, and it's like the other day, shout out to Clifton Powell. The other day, I'm like, Michael will tell you, I'm like, you know what? I appreciate Dillon Brooks' commitment and consistency to being a heel, to being a clown. Now, you're going to hit a dude in the nuts in a game in which you sucked, and first and foremost, not have the balls to talk
to show up
after the game. What we just heard from Dillon Brooks was after practice yesterday. I ain't talking. Bro, that's all you do. That's the only reason we know you is because you talk a lot and you dress like a rapper and you talk of your game even if your actual game don't back it up. Now you out here blaming the media for making you the villain. I thought that was a role you were embracing. Your once upon a time idol Draymond would never cry about somebody making you something that you have sought out the opportunity to be. Having said all that, the Lakers can't get them up out of here fast enough as far as I'm concerned. No disrespect to Ja, who despite his pain was a pleasure to watch, Marcus.
Yeah, this is very disappointing from Dillon, I must say.
Yeah.
I'm not a Dillon Brooks fan as far as like his game. I don't think he's that good, but I respected his hustle, man. We talk about Dillon Brooks, because he's really good at making us talk about Dillon Brooks. I just remember all this talk about running up chimneys and wanting to smoke. My man's got a little bit of smoke and ducks. Like, come on. I feel like it's on the rest of the Grizzlies to be like, nah, that's not what we about. Go take that podium. Go sit up at that mic. So I feel like he missed an opportunity to lean in. This is against LeBron. You know what I'm saying? He was about to this is Lance Stevenson's whole career right here. Lance Stevenson is worldwide famous now for blowing him. He's supposed to lean in. Instead, he's ducking it. That was
Mike,
thoroughly disappointing.
Mike, what was that scientific term you used? It wasn't it's a symbiote. It's something what you use talking about what Dillon Brooks is for LeBron, like just basically leeching off LeBron. Didn't you use that the other day? Or am I making that up?
Oh, yeah, no. He's a barnacle. He's a barnacle. He's just a barnacle, man. That's what he is.
Right.
That's what he is.
You can't detach from your host. You can't detach from your host if you're a barnacle. You got to suck it up, man.
Right.
Come on.
Marcus,
this is it right
100%.
here.
Thank you.
100%. That's how he sustains himself.
LeBron went down off that. I mean, I barely touched him. I didn't know I was that strong. Man, I've been talking more head if I was him.
Right.
But I'm just disappointed he missed the opportunity. Yeah.
But
come on, Dillon, step it up.
Hey, listen, Marcus. It's National Poetry Month. So as the poet Draymond said about Dillon Brooks, the dynasty starts after you, not with you. It starts after you. Okay, you ain't a part
That's
of
a bar.
it. You ain't a part of it.
That's a bar.
But it was a great bar. It was a great one on his podcast. But I do want to ask about Memphis. Writ large, are we? Should we write them off? I mean, they're down 2-1. It feels like it's worse. Is this a real series, or the Lakers just got too much for them?
I think Ja might be good enough to make this a series. Like, he just had that, like, we ain't losing the day vibe, right? In LA. And look, first game in LA always tough, right? That LA get you. LA get you by the heat. Like, you got the LA flu game 1. So I want to see how they respond in game 2. And they are missing Steven Adams and Brandon Clark. I do think that's important. But man, look, there's no question they didn't make some changes. There is absolutely no question. They've got some pieces to move around. And one of them is Dillon Brooks. Like, they just simply don't have the support on the wing. They don't have the shot creation. Ja got to go hero miracle ball to keep them in the game. And Dillon Brooks be trying to go hero ball, and he shouldn't, right? Like, and you're watching DeAnthony Melton out here balling with the 76ers, and it's like, that's kind of more what they need, right? Somebody who's not like dominating the rock, but getting it done. So I do think it's very clear that they need to make some tweaks if they really want to be all they say they are. With that said, I could see the Lakers tricking off a game and Ja going crazy and making this a series. That's very possible.
Well, listen, with all due respect to how dominant AD has been, and him and LeBron, and I know it's series to series and it's all about matchups, but would you make a case?
Oh, what's this?
What?
Oh, here we go. Okay.
What?
All right.
Well,
okay.
I'm
Okay.
like Jack Nicholson on the Shining, huh?
I'm gonna show you how it's done. Hey, Dillon Brooks,
You thought I was
I'm
gonna
gonna
let
show
y'all
you
keep
how it's
going
done.
and going and going?
I'm just gonna sit here. I'm gonna sit here, Dillon. You just gotta sit here and
No.
take it.
No,
Go ahead.
No, you gotta
Go
take
ahead,
nothing.
Natalie.
You ain't gotta take nothing.
Don't call me whack ass Dillon. If you're gonna compare me to a real villain, compare me to Draymond Green. That's first and foremost.
But wait a second, Natalie. Before you go off, okay, because I was about to ask about Katie and Booker, like best duo, but okay, fine. Here you are.
Best duo
I don't know
where?
what you're looking for. But wait a second. Please do not come talking shit after a 1-point win when Harrison Barnes had a great look, okay?
Hold on.
And now you're probably gonna end up right about Warriors in 6 because De'Aaron Fox got a fractured finger and is doubtful for game 5. So you're going to luck up and be right. So please don't come talking trash.
No, I'm going to talk, but this is the shit I'm talking about. I want Fox to play and to be healthy. I was distraught when I heard that news because now y'all got a built-in excuse for why when my Warriors win the next 2 and have the 4 games, like I said that they would, you're going to say, oh, De'Aaron Fox was hurt. And by the way, y'all wasn't talking all this shit. Y'all weren't talking all this shit when Andrew Wiggins had a 3 and they only won by a couple of points. And I pointed out that the Warriors controlled the game and could have still won. That you were like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. So now you're not going to try to flip that on me now.
I'm not
like
saying
I'm going to talk
shoulda.
because at the end of the day, they got the W.
What?
And they're just lucky that my GOAT, yes, he had a wild blunder, but my guy Steph had a blunder. That's the only reason they had a chance to win at the end because it was the Warriors game. So enough about that. And also, why?
Let me talk to a voice of reason, Marcus. See, the difference between me and Michael and Natalie is we wasn't out here disrespecting Golden State. She was acting like the Kings didn't belong on the same court. They were going to be nothing but a little mosquito and aggravating gnat, no pun intended, like a gnat, to the Warriors. And so I'm not saying that the win don't count. I'm just saying you can't come in here. The other day when they won without Draymond and I showed up on Friday for that smoke, that was warranted. Because Michael and I didn't think they had a chance to stop them without Draymond. They made they won without Draymond. Then Marcus made a great adjustment by bringing Draymond off the bench to start the game. We'll see what they do the next one. And not having him and Looney on the floor, at least to start. I'm just saying that the Kings could have easily won that game. Ain't no column for coulda, but they could have won it, Marcus.
They could have won, and the Warriors could have won it. Sorry, Marcus.
Mike,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think the fact that what we've learned in this series, and that the Kings are legit, makes it probably an even better win. Like, this team is tough, bro. Like,
tell that to Natalie.
They come through like I think she knows it. Like, they have they have a star player, right, who attacks. They have a really great coach who knows how to scheme. I feel like they beat most teams in this series. I feel like if they win this series, you could put them in the West Finals. Like, they're that good. They're that well-rounded, well-coached. I think one thing we've learned is that this is an incredible foe. So the fact that they are kind of coming through on this is more of a testament to their inexperience and championship pedigree, I think. I feel like that's a game the Warriors lose in many situations this season. But, man, like, Klay knuckled down. Klay is guarding Sabonis in the post, which, by the way, is unacceptable of you, Sabonis, but this team just win. They just find ways to win. I feel like that's the only thing that's separating them right now.
They do.
They just find ways to win, and that, I was thinking the same thing, Mike. Like, you can't be tricking off games like this. But after you talk to them, it does make a lot of sense. This is what they do, man. They find ways to win.
They always do seem to figure it out. All jokes aside, Natalie, and Marcus had a great line, I think, in your article today in The Athletic. I think it was, falling forward is still progress, Natalie.
Yes, but also, like, this incorrect description of my respect for the Kings, we're going to stop this, because this is how you spread lies. I have always respected the Kings. Yes. De'Aaron Fox is absolutely one of my favorite players in the league. I've been on De'Aaron Fox greater than Ja for a minute. Like, I completely respect the Kings. And the only thing that I simply said was that if the series were to start in Golden State versus on the road, I just think it's a shorter series. But it's not. But you can have a 5-game series and it still be a hard series. That doesn't mean that you don't respect the team and that they're not good, but you can have a short series that's still hard. And so, yeah, I thought the series would go 5 or 6. I don't like to hedge, so I said 5. But I completely respect the Kings. Even when I did a preview for the series, I said, unlike other young teams, the Kings are incredibly poised, and Mike Brown's a really smart coach. This is not the Wolves over here. Like, they're not going to just trick it off
or the Grizzlies.
Or the Grizzlies. It's not one of those teams.
Anthony Edwards was that dude last night at least.
That's Anthony Edwards, but they still almost tricked it.
But up 12, up 12 with 3 minutes to play.
Yes.
and they're down 3-0.
But a win is a win.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
But let me hit y'all with this though, please. As I said in the feed, I love watching the Warriors. I have loved watching them play. Some of their descriptions just get on my nerves, get on my last nerve. Now, I just quoted Draymond Green, the bars, give him love for the bars when they're accurate. What the hell is he talking about with this Draymond rule? Ain't no Draymond rule. He's like, oh yeah, they ain't out to get you, Draymond.
Well, there is now.
They ain't out to get Draymond. What's okay? You get a technical, you get technicals, you get thrown out of the game. The dude's been ejected 18 times in his career. The dude's been suspended 4 times. He got like tons of technical fouls, over 100 technical fouls. What's the Draymond rule?
But that's why it's a Draymond rule.
Embiid has more than him.
That's why it's a Draymond rule. But
what's the rule? I don't get it.
The rule
what they do for him?
Number one, they started saying, hey, if we don't like your history, we're gonna come with that. Like, that's the Draymond rule. And Doc Rivers came up with it. It wasn't Draymond.
That's Dennis Rodman.
Doc Rivers said
it. That's it. Doc Rivers, stop pandering, Doc. First of all, worry about getting out the second round.
Why is he
First
pandering?
of all, you worry about Philly.
Why you so triggered, Michael?
Worry
you
about
mad,
Philly.
bro?
But I'm saying,
why you so triggered?
I'm mad. I am. Listen, Dennis Rodman. When Draymond was in diapers, Dennis Rodman was the bad boy of the NBA, and he had his whole reputation. This ain't nothing new. Draymond didn't invent
it's
something.
Not new.
They ain't out to get him.
It's not new. But they didn't have this system of flagrant fouls and all this stuff in place. That stuff wasn't in place. Like, we're talking, it's only Draymond rules in the way that it's modern. Like, just because they had rules for Bill Russell or Wilt Chamberlain doesn't mean Jordan rules didn't exist, right? Like, rules, they have them, and we're talking about an era, and they're saying, Draymond, we don't like the way you act on the court. It wasn't with Dennis Rodman, with Bill Laimbeer, It was about what they've done. With Draymond, it's like, man, we don't like you acting. We don't like you playing the villain. We don't like you yelling at the crowd and carrying on. And that is unique. Like, we ain't never seen a dude basically say, look, you got kicked out of a game, of a playoff game, and the game that y'all lost. And that wasn't enough because we don't like that you was yelling back at the crowd. Like, that's a very specific indictment from basically a father figure in Joe Dumars. And we all know how old black people be like, man, don't be acting up in front of these white people. That's basically what he was saying. That is a very unique stance. Like, Adam Silver can't say that, which is probably why Adam Silver wasn't out there explaining it. But it's like, yo.
And there have since then been multiple players who did things worse than Draymond on the court or equal, and there was no second penalty for them, who have equal or worse history than Draymond. So it is unique to him, Michael. You got to acknowledge that.
Who's got a worse history? Who's got a worse history than Draymond?
Can I?
Joel Embiid has more flagrant fouls than Draymond Green, and he's played many less games. Dillon Brooks, no extra penalty. They do. The numbers are there.
He don't do a podcast though, so maybe that's what it is. Hey, before we go, I want to sneak in a quick Eastern Conference thing because I swear Michael and I've been doing this show since the bubble. I feel like it was the bubble. If I had one game to win right now, I pick Jimmy Butler. Speaking of Warriors, I just would pick Jimmy Butler. I'm saying in terms of just like his.
You talking about lock Jimmy Butler or not? Jimmy Butler with the locks or no? Which one?
I'm talking about whatever he wearing in the playoffs. I'm just saying something about this dude. Having said that, are we on our way, because I don't know about Giannis tonight, on our way to seeing Knicks Heat for old time's sake, Marcus?
Oh, please. Can we? I don't think we are. I think Giannis is going to come back and then it'll be over. But, I would love to see Knicks Heat. I would love Van Gundy to call the games. I would love Allen Houston to be hanging around somewhere. Give me the nostalgia. Matter of fact, put it on NBC so we can get the get
the round ball. Yes.
They're not even getting to 100 in these games. Ugh, gross.
I'm here for it. Thank you. Natalie too young to appreciate. She's too young.
Bring out Alonzo Mourning. Bring Alonzo Mourning out. Lonzo, Pat Riley. Where's John Starks?
Natalie got the keys, she got the alarm code. She just busting all up in here talking about the upper room. We out here talking about other playoff series, and she got to come in and push her chest out for her Warriors. Yeah, they probably gonna win it. Probably gonna win it in 6 or 7, just like she said. Bye, Natalie. Thank you, Marcus.
No problem.
Bruh, I'm so fired up. I might even have to go and fool around with franchise mode, dog. I'm just saying. This time of year, it really gets hard to not fire it up. Who's the what?
I'll tell you who I'm going to do. Cleveland.
Arizona.
I'm taking Arizona. I'm taking the hometown. I'm taking the hometown team because I want to get Cleveland to its first Super Bowl. We're going to have multiple championships. Not 1, not 2.
They got too much talent.
Not 3, not 4, not 5.
They got too much talent.
Hey, come on. Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.